Mary Jean Fields was born on a farm in Tipton, Iowa in 1924. She was fourth in a family of 9 children and the eldest girl. Tipton was a small town, population less than 1,000. Mary Jean was also small, standing just 5 feet tall at her peak. You can imagine, with 9 children, everyone knew the Fields family in Tipton. And with 6 brothers, Mary Jean was no pushover. She may have been small, but she was mighty. Mary Jean was a young teenager when she developed polio and had to be isolated for several weeks. Though she recovered, the terrifying experience stayed with her for life. Soon after the polio scare, World War II began, taking some of Mary Jean's brothers overseas to fight. After graduating high school, Mary Jean went to work for the local paper, the Tipton Conservative, where she quickly rose to the rank of news editor. At age 20, she packed up her bags and moved alone to San Francisco. There, she went to work for a much larger newspaper, the San Francisco Examiner. It was at the Examiner where she met and fell in love with Machette, who was a managing editor at the paper. Renee and Mary Jean were married in 1947. They soon moved to San Jose, where Mary Jean went to work for the San Jose Mercury News, and Renee opened up a donut shop. They had 2 children together, Michael and Michelle. Their life together was tragically cut short when Renee died of cancer in 1954, leaving Mary Jean alone with 2 small children. At the time, Michael was 4.5 years old and Michelle just 1.5. A few years later, Mary Jean went back to work at Bob Coyle Chevrolet in San Jose. That's where she met Gus Hammers. He was selling cars, and Mary Jean worked in the business office. Gus and Mary Jean were married in 1959. Michael, Michelle, Mary Jean, and Gus moved to the Camden area of San Jose, where they lived for 3 years. In 1960, Chuck came along. The family moved to San Miguel Avenue in Salinas, where they bought a brand new house in a newly developed neighborhood. They spent holidays and many weekends with the Hammers cousins in San Jose. Mary Jean and Gus divorced in 1966. Mary Jean went to work at Salinas Valley Hospital, where she stayed for the next 20 years. As Michael and Michelle grew up and moved away, Mary Jean stayed in Salinas raising Chuck. After the birth of Michelle and Roxy's daughter Alyssa, Mary Jean retired from the hospital and moved to Palo Alto to be closer to the family. In her retirement, Mary Jean stayed busy, helping Michelle and Roxy with their businesses and Chuck with Pizza A Go-Go. But her true joy came from her grandchildren. Mary Jean relished her role as grandma, and the grandkids adored her. She was always a willing participant in family games, puzzles, and silly antics. Mary Jean was quick-witted, kind-hearted, and sharp as a tack. She had an independent streak a mile wide and a knack for calling it like she saw it. Mary Jean struggled bravely with Parkinson's disease for 25 years, but it never defined her. Instead, her life was defined by the strength of her character in good times and bad, and the love in her heart always. Both qualities immeasurable, in a woman impossible to forget.